So Saturday's session is for higher seekers. We all are higher seekers. So I want to touch base upon the understanding before I go to the other verses written by this master for learning. So because when you are at a higher level, say you are a PhD student, you need not to know what is matter, what is atom, molecule. So you talk about molecular biology, etc. So that is the way we have to understand. My father was a great scholar of Sanskrit, so I read almost all the literatures of the Eastern wisdom, and my mind was claiming that I know, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know. So you see that there are two parts. I know and I don't know, because there was no change in behavior and attitude. But at the same time, I know. What do you teach? I teach sometime meditation. No, I have been doing meditation for 20 years and there is no change. There is no change in behavior and attitude. I'm still in the same stress and anxiety and duality. So my master, I used to interrupt him. No, I know it. I know it. For 3 years, he tolerated me. And one day he patted on my shoulder. He said, what I teach is not written in the text. What I teach is not written in the text because it comes from my experience. So that revelation takes place the moment you appear, and I say, this example will fit here, you to change. So after almost, I think, 3 and 4 years, I stopped interrupting him. I never interrupted him. So to become a seeker is one of the greatest asset that we can have in the journey of mindfulness. This master says only understanding is required, practice is not required. So many people have taken that verse, oh, it is an effortless practice. Oh, you need not to do anything, you just close your eyes, focus on the breath, and you are there. How easy it is. It is not so easy. Unless if I am a seeker, I understand it. If I am not a seeker, even listening, I cannot understand it. Or I misunderstand it. But then the next question comes, why I misunderstand? My intention is right. You see that? We have that question. We have that question in mind. My intention is always right. I always attend your session. So how that misunderstanding comes? Because I told you that this journey is for the very higher level of see, it doesn't mean that you cannot attend. But here we need to understand it intellectually. So I will just throw some light on what is that misunderstanding. Pay attention. There is a water in the bucket and the sunlight falls on that water. So there is a reflected light. There is a reflected light. Now compare it with the topic that we are doing. That sun is the real self. Water is the mind or the intellect. Clear? And that reflected light is our ego, the false I. Sunlight, sun is the real self. That is where we want to discover. But it reflects on the mind, and through conversation, through talking, through learning, those thought process, all the thought process is nothing but the reflected consciousness. That is the false I. But still there is another question comes. You see, here splitting analysis of our own life, of our own behavior and attitude takes us to the highest state of the consciousness because it is already within me. I'm the nature of the real self, but I don't see that. So now see that reflected consciousness. So here I'm going slowly. I believe you will all understand. Now, another question comes that I'm speaking the same thing to you all, isn't it? But your understanding is different, isn't it? I am saying the same thing, but your understanding varies from person to person. Why this happens? Find out the answer. Why this happens? So normally we say it is because of our upbringing. I have lot of stress, so uh, my mind was already focused on those challenges. That is why I did not understand it. I will listen to it again, and the same thing happens again. Why? Are you getting it? The thing I believe I have laid the foundation. Sunlight is the real self. Water is the medium. That water is nothing but the mind or the intellect, you can say. And the reflected consciousness means the sunlight that reflects on the water is the reflected consciousness, is the false I. False I has the intention. We have to start with that. No, I will succeed, I want peace and happiness. But this is disturbed. You have a right intention. That is why you are attending the session, isn't it? It's very clear. But then what disturbs? So now those people who know, so the master says that it the cause lies in the water. Cause lies in the water. And what is that mind? So it lies deeper in the mind. What is that mind? That mind contains the three gunas, sato guna, rajo guna, and tamo guna. I'm taking your understanding to a deeper level. How can you say? Whatever I speak, it is at the functional level. The way I talk and behave and act in a particular situation, I have a challenge. How I respond or react, how I get upset or painful, that depends on the three gunas. What is your false I? False I is just nothing but the three gunas. Three gunas. What are the three gunas? First is the sato guna. It always desires for the knowledge. Rajoguna is always attached. So we have millions and trillions of impressions of that attachment present in the water. So I want to practice meditation, I want to succeed, I want to understand, but behind, deep inside the water, it is the satoguna, it is aspiring for knowledge. On a given day, you will understand better. If it is guided by the rajoguna, then you are already attached. And if it is guided by the tamoguna, the mind opposes that knowledge. Come what may, you feel sleepy, you have more distraction. Are you getting it? We are taking up, because I have to take the higher verse next week, so I have to lay a foundation. Again, I'm saying, so sun is the real self, water is the medium, reflected consciousness is the I. What is that I? It is made up of the three gunas. Three gunas. So that means there's a functional I speak and I think and act. But behind that, what I am going to speak, the way I'm going to express, depends on those three gunas. No, but I want to realize the real self. That covers, that veils the real self. So veiling of the real self is known as the ignorance. Asatoma satgamaya moving, lead us from the false to the real. I'm talking to you how your mind responds to my talking depends on those three gunas which is working at a deeper level of your mind. That's why everyone has a different way of understanding, different way of expressing it. So now see if the tamo guna is active. You have a right intention. You say, I'm attending your session regularly. But tamoguna is constantly active. It opposes the knowledge. So at a deeper level, it will distract your mind. The false I will follow that path. It will continue to have an ignorance, and you are done. What is understanding? Do you still remember what I said? Cause and effect relationship. No more cult, dogma, belief, religion. Nothing of that sort. This master says you have to do the hair splitting analysis of your mind so that you know how to take over your behavior and attitude coming from the three gunas. If the sato guna is active, you know that you have to maintain peace at all cost. You have to express the thought and the speech and action so that nobody is hurt, nobody is reacting, but still some people get reacted, even when you speak rightly. But you don't feel that sense of, you have a sense of respect, you have a sense of care, you have a sense of the love. If the satoguna is active. Now see, if the satoguna is active all the time, in your relations, in your personal life, in your professional life, in your social life. But we are coming to the main topic. You see that we again understand, again I'm repeating, water is the mind. What I'm expressing in terms of the thought and the speech and the action, its cause lies deep inside the mind, deep inside the false I. What is this false I? It is made up of three gunas. Satoguna means, now you can compare this with the vibrations in the water. That's why I created this example. Water, you are sitting on a beach. Obviously, we sit on the beach when the temperature is right and when there is no chance of the storm or a tsunami. Yeah, we only visit those beaches now when everything is good. You don't visit the beaches when there is a chance and a prediction that there is going to be a storm in Florida, for example. But that is a physical example. We already have a storm inside, deeper layer of the mind. How are you? I'm okay. How are you? You see the expression. I'm okay. Because I have some disliking for you. My tone and my pitch changes because of those waves in the water. So first kind of the wave is looking for the knowledge that makes you the highest level of a seeker. The second is the Rajoguna, the activity. It attaches me, instant attachment, and out of that attachment I build a false ego. And the third is the Tamoguna. It just opposes the knowledge. So that is why whenever we feel sleepiness and dizziness, it is because of the Tamoguna. And sometimes it happens. Rajoguna, mind is, you already said a couple of times that the mind remains distracted. So it is happening. Your intention is right. You are attending the session. You are doing the practice. But still, something deeper level of the mind, that Rajoguna, is very active. It is building a storm. That's why we have a lot of thoughts. You don't want thoughts, but still you have it. I believe this example will help us to understand. This. So, having this in background, now we first metaphor that we had the first metaphor given by this master. He says there is a canvas. Canvas is equated to a pure consciousness. Then what happens? You starch. In olden days, we used to starch that canvas so that it becomes stiff. So there is some trigger in that consciousness, which is known as the causal body. Out of the causal body, the third level, out of a painter makes a sketch first before painting. So that is the causal body. Causal body is the mind. Mind contains this falsi. And the fourth is on that canvas, then we paint the picture. What is that painted picture? It is the entire world in which we live. And then in the second metaphor, he went deeper into it. So what he says, when you say consciousness is all one, it is all pervading, but I see consciousness, I have a consciousness, you have a consciousness. In daily life, that is what we feel. And then we also feel somewhat that then there is a supreme consciousness. And then what about the world consciousness? So there are 4 levels of the consciousnesses, and we say consciousness is one. How it is possible? So when we resolve this doubt that 4 consciousnesses is in ignorance, only one consciousness is all pervading, then we realize the real self. This is what this master is talking about. So he gives us an example. There is a pot space. Where is pot space? So pot space, he says, it represents the real self of the nature of peace, happiness, love, and wisdom. And that pot space does not change. You put the water into that, so it becomes a water space. That water space is an individual consciousness. What is individual consciousness? It is the false side. Go back to the same example. I just explained you sunlight reflects in the water. That reflected light is the false side. So unless we remove that false eye, means we understand this is not the real eye. We have to understand that only. False eye will continue to exist. But now false eye follows the real self, the real I. That is known as an awakening. So go back to the same pot space, water space. You put the tea space. But it is not a tea space in the pot. Enclosed space with a clay is known as the water space. That is what is the body-mind complex. So anytime you wake up and you are thinking and you are talking, it is the false I that is constantly working. Body-mind complex. Are you attending the session? Yes, I'm attending the session. Where are you? Oh, here you are. So what I'm referring? I'm referring to the body-mind complex. I'm not referring to the real self. So this is working at the micro level. Individual self is a reflected consciousness, consists of the body, mind, breath, intellect, thoughts, guided by those 3 gunas. You break the working of 3 gunas, you are awakened here and now. You are already there. Similarly, so we talked about individual consciousness and the real I or the real self or the pure consciousness as an individual level. What happens at the universal level? So Master gives an example that there is a space inside the pot and there is a space outside that pot. Is the space outside the pot is different from the space inside the pot? No. The infinite space outside the pot is the same as the space inside the pot, because the space cannot be divided, so the consciousness cannot be divided. And that infinite space, we say supreme consciousness, infinite consciousness, God, whatever you want to say. Name it anything. So due to the ignorance, I say the enclosed space in this room is different from the space outside. How? Body-mind complex. Answer why it happened. Body-mind complex is carried out by the false I. But what is behind the false I? Three gunas. That is why, in spite of having a right intention to reach to the higher state of awakening, we fail to do so. Micro level. I explained you pot space, individual self, and the real self. Now we are understanding what is happening at the macro level, the supreme consciousness. On that supreme consciousness, the entire world is reflected into it. Entire world. Just think of the cosmic mind. In the cosmic mind, pure infinite consciousness is reflected, and that reflected consciousness is the world. The way the individual self is working at the individual level, the same way the world consciousness is also working as one unit. So what this master is saying, you falsify the individual self by understanding, you falsify the world consciousness at the individual level, then out of the four, only two are left. What is left? The real self and the supreme self. So through the knowledge, we break that we break that wall of the pot. What happens? We find that real self at the individual level is nothing but the same supreme consciousness inside. That is why we say it is an awakening. But it cannot happen. So now what happens that in the journey, that is why the master says that we have to become a seeker. What does it mean by becoming a seeker? That what is happening at that behind, deep inside the level of the water? Water is the mind and the intellect, the way I think, the way I speak, the way I act in my life. That comes from these three gunas. So tamoguna is lethargic, sleepiness, opposes the knowledge. Someday you wake up in the morning, who wakes up, let me lie down. It is tamoguna. Rajoguna attaches ourselves instantly. It does not allow your mind to even think of behind the attachment. I become so limited a person. And when I become a limited person, that is the cause of my stress and anxiety, duality, and a conflict, because I'm just living in my own shell. Satoguna expands you with that knowledge. But if these three gunas are not working in equilibrium, even if you have a right intention, it does not work. So becoming a seeker means that I have to bring a change into these three gunas. Understand in a simple way. I am speaking, whatever the words are being spoken, the way it is spoken, with an energy it is spoken, lies in these three gunas. And these three gunas are present everywhere. In my body, in my mind, in my intellect, in my ego, in all my actions. Oh, come on, if I'm feeling sleepy and I'm saying you let us practice meditation. So that is also reflected in your mind. It picks up the same tamoguna in you also. Why I gave this example? Someone says you are crazy, so that word crazy, with its interpretation, lies in the deep layers of the mind, gives the interpretation, and if you have a satoguna, you say, okay, oh, he might have said crazy, it doesn't make any difference. You don't react. Rajoguna, you react with a greater force. Tamoguna, you are scared, okay, what should I do if I'm crazy? At every moment, the way we talk and we express and we act in our life, if it comes from the false side, which is causing the ignorance, and if you remove the veil, the real self always gives the spontaneous, natural answer in every situation. It meets every situation in peace. You meet every situation in attachment. You meet every situation in unconsciously opposing the knowledge. What is opposing the knowledge? No, I don't understand why you have said me crazy and that I keep that thought continuously for a couple of years and I stop talking to you. You see, that reflects in my behavior and attitude. So that is why the master always lays an importance. No, you have to become a seeker. I look myself as an individual self, as a body mind complex, is the problem. From where it comes, I told you, reflected consciousness. How that reflected consciousness works depends on these three gunas, if it is working with the sato guna all the time. What happens? That is why the Buddha cannot prevent himself to live in the mood of compassion. It is because he is full of sato guna. He is not compassionate at all. But he cannot prevent himself. Are you understanding? There are two things. I practice compassion. But internally, I have a lot of reactive thoughts. It does not work. It does not work. You are exposed one day. But now, if you compare the Buddha's mind with our mind, Buddha's mind receives that compassion from the Sato Guna constantly 24/7. So if the now see I'm drawing a curve structure that we see in economics and we forecast real self is there. When the real self is there, go little deeper into the mind where the three gunas are working. Now the real self is being reflected by the sato guna. It prevents the rajoguna, that is the strong ego, with lot of attachment and reaction is not there. Tamoguna, sleepiness, unconsciousness, habit is not there. Then that satoguna comes outside in the form of a thought, speech, and action, so that now the real self is being expressed all the time through your mind, intellect, and the body mind complex. You still living with the body mind complex. We say we are not the body mind complex. They have to now. They become a channel of your expression of peace and happiness, love and wisdom all the time. Did I talk a very complex principle? No, it's very simple. It's a subtle. It's not difficult. It's not difficult to understand, but it is a subtle. What to do? What to do? The self-inquiry. This master, I told you before also, that has written 15 chapters. 5 chapters, he talks about the existence. This is the 6th chapter I have taken up. He talks only about the consciousness. What is the nature of the consciousness, how the consciousness functions, how there is a reflected consciousness that takes place, and how the reflected consciousness means the individual self is affected and impacted by by these three gunas which causes the reaction, anger, anxiety, duality, conflict, problem in my life. He did not talk about three gunas, but I have taken the three gunas from the other reference. Why he did not talk? Because this text is for the higher level of the seekers. You are a PhD student, you need not to study, the high school science. But it doesn't mean that we are not that seeker. That is why I think, I thought of putting, So what happens when these three gunas are constantly in him? Say satoguna, then the rajoguna, and tamoguna, SRT. Now inside your mind, you are a wonderful person. For example, we all are wonderful. Now see, if SRT is the right equation, satoguna, Raju and the Tamoguna working under the influence of the Satoguna at the deeper level of your mind will keep you peace and happiness all the time, 24/7. You will not be dictated by any situation, condition in your life. No relationship can ever bring any sense of anxiety and duality in you. SRT. Now, if it is TRS, TRS is Tamoguna. Tamoguna possesses the knowledge. Honey, can we go together? Why should I go with you? I can give you millions of expression. That's how I understand. I have understood myself and I understand you guys. The moment you talk about anything, you express your thought. So I pick up TRS. TRS means Tamoguna is dominant. Now Tamoguna is controlling the Raju and the Satoguna. You wake up in the morning and your mind says, oh, let us do some physical activity. Who says, who will do this physical activity? Letharginess. Opposing the knowledge. Don't following what is right. I will teach him a lesson. Rajoguna. RTS. So what our masters are saying that if the Satoguna takes over the Rajoguna, when to act, how to act, there is kind of a revelation takes place in your mind. It is spontaneous. And that is why, because of those revelations, these masters have written those texts. Not that they have hired an agent, literary agent. Then they say how to become, what is that? What is in this side of the world? I have now everywhere in the world. How to be, what is that, Successful author, somewhat we say that, successful author on the Amazon and successful, We are studying the text, he did not market it anything. There is a substance in it. So that is another way to understand. Again, repeating, then we will do the non-practice, so to say. You have to simply recognize and accept the instructions, no steps in the practice. But still I use and I say these are the steps. The moment I use the steps, it means I'm doing the practice. But if I'm not using the steps, knowledge flows from one layer to the second layer to the third, the way you are listening to me. So real self is always there, okay. And then real self is the sun to make us understand. Then there is the water. Water is the medium. You cannot reflect the sunlight through the wall, so through the body. But so it reflects first in the mind and it brings the body and the sense organ together. That becomes an individual self, that is a reflected consciousness. If the moon wants to see Where comes, where the light comes from? Can the moon find out? Answer is no. There is no moonlight. There is no reflected consciousness. There is no false eye. So we should have a recognition that as such this false eye exists and it can be falsified by knowledge. How it can be falsified by knowledge? I always give an example that you see a mirage water in a desert from too far, you approach near. Do you need to remove that mirage water? It dissolves by itself because in the presence of the knowledge. We are driving on the highway, everyone has experienced that the highway is running behind my car, running behind, running back at me, isn't it? But is it true? No, it is not true. Now you have realized that it is not true. You have recognized it is not true. Fear is gone, right? But now again you are driving on the highway, you still see those movements. So the false eye continue to live with us because without that ego we cannot function in the world. But now the false eye listens to the real self. False eye listens to the real self, and that is what? And what is real self? Real self is of the nature of peace and happiness. It flows out. Close your eyes. Eyes are closed. Pay attention. When I said eyes are closed, it is reflected consciousness. I believe you have understood. Now eyes are closed and you are aware. And somewhat happens, the eyes are squeezed. Oh, it's a Rajoguna. You simply recognize that it is the Rajoguna. The individual self wants to be active in spite of my intention to be into that higher state of mindfulness. That recognition is required. The squeezing will stop. Okay. Anything that is spoken will come from the false eye, and if the false eye is guided by the satoguna present in the mind, you recognize, you accept, you recognize, you accept here is an ignorance and it drops by itself. That is known as the effortless mindfulness practice. Otherwise, others are simply a gossip. It doesn't work that way. So you see, I've been taking being comfortable, looking at the body. So that very awareness contains both the real I and the false I. The false I follows the instructions, and by following the instruction, the false I dissolves by itself like a mirage water. What cannot be falsified? Real self cannot be falsified. So that what remains, and that illumines. That is where the mindfulness is there and awakening is there. So pay attention to just instructions, simple. You are aware of the body. And that awareness, in the field of awareness, you have sensation, come and steadiness. So if the Satoguna is there deep inside, it will instantly bring that nature of experience, of sensation, comfort and steadiness, my friends. It is such a revelation is there. And even if the sensation, comfort, and steadiness is not there, in spite of having right intention, you all have a right intention to be in the state of the mindfulness, but that intention is carried away, dictated by the Rajoguna or the Tamoguna, causes this problem. It distracts, it divides, it creates many false eyes. One false eye says, I have a right intention. Second says, I feel sleepy. Third says, I'm reacting. Fourth false eye. So that false eye divides into millions of eyes. You simply recognize that. Whereas recognition is a cognitive ability. So we recognize at the same time, we also recognize sensation, comfort, and steadiness. What is after that? There is a space, or darkness, or emptiness. So, emptiness has to be recognized as an objectless state. Where is that object? It may be a thought, it may be feeling, it may be imagination. So once we recognize that objectless state in the space is awareness and awareness is space. Rajoguna will come and say no. Tamoguna will say I'm already sleepy, feeling lazy, opposing the knowledge. Do you see what is happening inside us? If the Satoguna is there, you have a simple recognition, it's a cognitive ability, objectless state is there, and then you are there. That Satoguna prevents your body to move, and that reveals new vision and experiences. My friends, a seeker recognizes that. Being comfortable. What exactly we are understanding? We are separating the false I with the real I. The dream girl, waking boy cannot marry together. Dream girl, false I, dictated by the Raju and the Tamoguna. Waking boy is a seeker. I'm just speaking, that should make you a sense by citing different examples. Now, you're just aware of the thought. Thought is the product of all the three gunas. You have a right intention, dictated by Raju and Tamoguna, you will not succeed. You have a bad intention, but overwhelmed by the Satoguna, you will succeed. Cause and effect relationship we are talking about. Understand it clearly. Understanding means recognition. Recognition does not mean practice. You are just aware. There I used to say you have unwanted, unwelcome thoughts. Now do you realize these unwanted, unwelcome thoughts from where they come? From the turbulence in the water inside, which we are not aware, caused by the three gunas. And that is why Master says we have to become the higher level of a seeker to follow this higher journey. So just you are looking at the thoughts and feeling, how to be the higher level of a seeker, you are already doing it. You are understanding. You may say, I'm trying to understand. The thoughts are coming instantly, you are more aware and attentive. Oh, thought, product of three gunas inside, taking a shape of the false I that says I am in stress, I have crazy thoughts. You see, I instantly comes. Are you getting it? So you recognize the entire process. So very recognition of the entire process that is happening at a deeper level of your mind keeps you separate from what is happening. Your mind will say it is not possible. It is 100% possible. How come? I am always different from what is happening and what I am doing. I am speaking to you, giving instructions to you. Am I not different and separate from my speaking? This is a universal principle. We need to be aware of that. I am walking. I am different from walking. So whatever is happening, unwanted thoughts and feelings are coming, good thoughts are coming and going. I am different from that. I is the real I. But a non-seeker recognizes I with the thoughts, good thought, bad thought, unwanted thought. That is why you share your experiences. I had a lot of thoughts in the beginning. So I base this session based on your experiences. I do nothing. I just explain you where you stand. Perfectly, you're not doing anything. You're just recognizing the very process that is happening inside at a very subtler level. It's not very difficult to understand, my friends. So, what happens in our daily life, even now, the false eye steals the show of our life. How come? Any thought represents the three gunas. Every thought contains the three gunas. If the satoguna is 80%, the rest are 20%, you are done. Three gunas will always remain present, all the time. But satoguna has taken over the control over the rajo and the tamoguna at a deeper level so that your thought process will change. You will never say, I have a lot of thoughts today in the meditation. Then what? I had a lot of thoughts. Satoguna says, I'm not my thoughts. I believe you are getting it. We are going deeper and deeper. Before taking up the next verse from his teaching, I want to lay a strong foundation. Any thought comes, identified, ready to be identified with the false I. So what is the knowledge? I'm not what I'm doing. I'm not what is happening. Oh, I'm using being comfortable and being carefree in this session for the sake of speaking and understanding. We simply recognize the false I steals the show in our life, or or at present in the field of awareness, the reflected consciousness is aware of the real self. Anything that is happening, any thought that enters into the mind, that the moment I say I become aware, both the real self also becomes aware and the false I also becomes aware. The real self does not identify with that thought. The false I identifies with that thought. That is the only difference. So identification takes place by Rajo, and the Tamoguna has taken over the Satoguna. Means the activity and the obsession and reactions, it is a accumulated impressions like a mountain that prevents the recognition to take place, is also known as the impurities of the mind. We have been talking on Mondays and Thursdays session. So what the master is conveying, the individual self steals the show and the real self remains hidden. Real self hides itself? No. But the individual self veils, covers. Are you getting it? I believe so. So when you are getting it, you are in the field of recognition, you are in the field of awareness, and that very awareness, here I am. To say in a simple word, reflected consciousness is claimed as a real self. Moonlight is claimed as the sunlight. Water space in the pot is taken as the pot space. Pot space never goes away. You put the water, one thought. You put another thought, it is like a tea space, water space. Now understand the deeper implication of this metaphor used by our master. That I identifies with the water, I space. Tea space. So one thought, crazy thought, good thought, bad thought. So I have a cognition. I am not what is happening and what I'm doing. I'm walking. It doesn't mean that I'm walking. I'm speaking. It doesn't mean that I'm speaking. Why? After all, speaking has to come to an end. The moment it comes to an end, it means if I'm speaking, it means I'm dead now. But we identify with it. How come? I've already told you. By an example of the water, and in that water there is a turbulence. You don't go to a beach when there is a weather prediction there is going to be a big storm. And that storm is always present in us as long as we are not a seeker. So what is happening basically is that why we say ignorance, there is a confusion between the real I and the false I. So when we are a higher seeker, we appreciate this understanding and then we do the analysis, we reach to the knowledge. So how we reach to the knowledge? We falsify the false I. Why it is a false I? It can be falsified. Mirage water can be falsified. Any thought coming and going. It is a product of that what is happening in the water deep inside of which we are not aware. We can only understand when these thought enters. Oh, then it means incoming and outgoing thoughts is a big opportunity for me? Yes. Oh, it's a big opportunity, yes. What kind of an opportunity? I don't create a dream world based on the thought identifying with that I. Dream world of stress, dream world of reaction, dream world of anxiety, dream world of duality, dream world of conflict. Long list. If your mind has a curiosity, oh, how come these three gunas are working and why these three gunas? Three gunas means the world outside. That is the very nature of the world. Everything, these three gunas are present in the body, in the mind, in my eyes, in my perception, in my mind, in intellect, ego, relationship. Everywhere it is present. In the food. We still have to answer a couple of more questions. The interplay of these three gunas. We go to the ultimate cause. What is the ultimate cause? Real self. We are free. We are in that state of mindfulness. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both their palms, place it on your eyes. Open the eyes inside the palms. Know your experiences. Bring the hands down. Yeah, now is the time to share your experiences, but be also ready to ask any question if you have. Stephen.
All right, thank you. Completely understand the SRT. Always like the acronyms, so thank you for that. I found that upon closing my eyes, just an immediate fall into a dark, vast space. This might have been the fastest non-practice that ever went through, and
Good.
and it was, yeah. So it was good. A lot to think about. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Thank you. How are you, David and Jerry? You see, our Samir left the meeting. Yeah. Okay.
It was probably the simplest lesson that
Wonderful.
I heard from you, but had the most power or the most information, if that makes sense. So, to Stephen's point, lots to contemplate. Very deep, very simple meditation.
Beautiful. Yeah. So when you understand, when there is an understanding, I don't know when I'm going to get angry and agitated. Do you know that? Do you plan to be angry and agitated? So now there, the master says the cause is the three gunas living deeper inside the mind. You may have created a disliking against a person 10 years ago and he appears, or he looks like the same. That is expressed in the thought. We have to get rid of that. No doubt, it is very simple. How are you, Jerry?
Sir, I'm good, thank you. I also really appreciated the lesson. I think that tumultuous nature is always there, just like the ocean can be, right? There's always this rough and there's always the calm. And through the experience, I feel like, and I may not say it correctly, but through that reflected consciousness and reflecting on these experiences that have proven to us that no matter what the situation, there's something that never changes. So, and if we really have taken the time to look at those experiences, we may have felt them through that mind-body complex, the sorrow or the anger, but then we also felt what isn't changing, and so we never are a victim of. We always have that peace, so we never feel like a victim. We never blame. We never things come and go, relationships come and go.
Yeah. You're rightly pointing out, we are not the victim of situations, conditions, relations outside, because I feel it. So the false I is there, and the false I veils the real I. That is the problem. That is the problem of ignorance and wisdom. The science has been successful in predicting when the flood is coming, when the tsunami is coming. But what is the cause of that tsunami? They have yet to find out, because they cannot control it. So we also feel tsunami in our daily life. We are going to dig inside. Where is the cause? I believe you all are getting it. How are you, Dennis? Hope I'm trying to answer your question. I'm trying.
Yes, Guruji, thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm also trying to understand very, very hard. Yes, throughout the meditation, I was recognizing and maintaining awareness that I am not anything and I'm not everything that happens. Everything that comes to the mind or the senses, I have been being aware that
Wonderful.
I'm not that.
That's wonderful.
But then the question comes: the one who is recognizing that and the one who maintains this awareness, is that the real self, or is it still a piece of mind or intellect?
This is an interpretation by the same reflected consciousness in the false I. So when the false I, let it reflect, let it think, let it raise a question and stop there. So if the moon says, I know which one is the sun light, can it ever find it? Find out, and you have an answer. We are going there. That is why before I called you and I spoken that we have to find out the cause of this tsunami. There lies the answer. Where is the need to have? Where is the need to have a suffering in our life? Where is the need to have a false I? So the answer lies in, am I worthy of suffering? If I am not, I drop it. What is left is the real self. But it cannot be discovered by the reflected consciousness. Your question is right. So what happens that reflected consciousness comes down, does not create an I-ness, and you are there. How are you, Brandy?
Morning, I'm good. I really like studying the deviates because that helps me organize the false self, the I-ness. And otherwise, it's sometimes like confetti, right? It's like, like you said, things come one after the other. So it helps me put it in its right place and, get closer to the real self.
Beautiful. To just point you out one thing, when the moment the thought comes is I am unorganized, it is due to the Rajoguna and the Tamoguna. So SRT is a right equation, right acronym. If it becomes RST or RTS. So I simply recognize, mind, why you are unorganized. Is it not possible to stand up and start doing? Cognitive ability. That is what the mindfulness. How are you, Christina?
Thank you. Today, the teaching landed a deeper sense of what the real I is, and then the worried thought of opening eyes and living in my life, almost tripping over all of the tsunamis, and the idea of how to operate in the world almost from the real I feels challenging.
Yes. Yes, it is challenging because the false I has taken over the real I, and the false I always claims that I am the real I. So when the false I claims I am the real I, then only I recognize that there is a lot of stress in my life, lot of dualities in my life. Only the false I recognizes I am the victim of the circumstances. Real I has nothing to do with it. So it takes time. Understanding, changing, it takes time. How are you, Terry?
I'm just noticing everything that happens, and I don't know, one minute it seems very clear, and the next minute it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I feel so much, even more urgently, to aware of how important it is that we develop this understanding, because I think we need it to endure everything that is coming. Sorry.
It's okay.
My machines are.
Your first statement makes everything. That is what happens. We have to recognize it. I was just noticing what is happening. So what happens, Dennis, that I'm just pay attention to it. I am not what I am doing. Are you clear? I'm not speaking. This is known as a witness consciousness. And So it has come from your sato guna, but as it is being expressed in the rajoguna and in the tamoguna got mixed up. And then we started with different explanations. Are you clear about this? I am not what I am doing. I am not what is happening. If I am what is happening, if I am what is doing, false I has already returned. And that false I asked the question, how are you, Ashok?
Sir, I am good, peace and calm, and I understand that SRT is the what I am today.
Yeah.
I mean, that depends on my SRT.
I
That
like
depends
it.
on my SRT. So I would like to understand the um, thoughts pattern that also depends on SRT.
Yes,
So SRT is the main thing. That is.
SRT is the main thing. Any thought that you have spoken, any thought that has caused you the stress, analyze with reference to SRT. You'll find
Yes,
the
sir.
solution. You're right.
Mm.
That's a great understanding. Every time, any thought, any action, if any action is done with reference to the SRT, that action will definitely be complete. And if it is done with the RST or if it is done with the TRS, you are the victim of a situation. Did you see the role of these three gunas? We have understood, we have a surface understanding. Oh, these are the three gunas. Oh, I know it. No, we have yet to know a lot. Thank you.
Everything depends on. Thank you, sir.
Yes. What did you say? What are you saying?
Everything depends on the SRT only.
Yes. Little more than that.